There is something about the night that feels different. Not quieter, not calmer, not even more peaceful, but more honest. Because when the world goes to sleep, there is nothing left to distract you from yourself. And that is where the real story begins. People who sleep late are often misunderstood. They are called lazy, undisciplined, and focused. But what if that is not the truth? What if staying awake at night is not about laziness, but about something much deeper? Because the truth is, most people who stay up late are not running away from sleep. They are running away from something else. During the day, life is loud. People are talking, notifications are everywhere, expectations are pressed on you, responsibilities are waiting. You are constantly being pulled in different directions. And somewhere in all that noise, you forget yourself. But at night, everything slows down. And for the first time, you are left alone with your thoughts. No distractions, no expectations, no pressure to perform, just you and your mind. And that is where it becomes dangerous, because most people are not afraid of darkness, they are afraid of what they think in the dark. Late sleepers are often deep thinkers, not by choice but by habit. Their mind doesn't stop when the day ends. It starts. They replay conversations, things they said, things they should have said, things they wish they never said. They think about the future, about what could go wrong, about what might never happen. They question everything, their directions, their purpose, their direction in life, and why the world is lasting. Their mind is running. This is why they stay awake. Not because they want to, but because they cannot turn it off. Overthinking is not just thinking too much. It is feeling too much without knowing what to do with it. And night amplifies everything. A small worry becomes a big fear, a small doubt becomes a deeper insecurity, a simple thought becomes a spiral. And the longer you stay awake, the deeper you go. But there is another side to this, a side people don't talk about. Night is also the only time some people feel free. Free from judgment, free from expectations, free from version of themselves they have to be during the day. During the day, you are who the world needs you to be. A student, a worker, a friend, a son, a daughter. You perform slower, you wear masks, but at night you can finally be yourself. And that feeling is addictive, because for the first time you are not pretending. This is why many people delay sleep, not because they hate sleeps, but because they love who they are when no one is watching. There is a name for this. It's called the revenge bedtime procrastination. It happens when you feel like you have no control of your day, so you take control of your night. You stay awake, scrolling, watching, thinking, doing nothing, but still feeling something, because it is the only time that feels like yours. But here is the problem. What feels like control is often just another trap, because the more you stay awake, the more tired you become. The more tired you become, the harder your days get. And the harder your days get, the more you need the night to escape. And just like that, you are stuck in a rope. A silent loop that slowly takes control of your time. Late sleepers often live in two worlds. A world where they are exhausted and a world where they feel alive. And unfortunately, the one where they feel alive only exists at night. But life does not happen at night. Opportunities don't wait for you at 2 a.m. Growth doesn't happen when you are too tired to act. Your best version does not come from exhaustion. And deep down, you know this. But knowing something and changing it are two different things. Because the real reason people sleep late is not time. It is emotion, and processed emotion. Things you didn't deal with during the day come back at night. The stress you ignored, the thoughts you avoided, the feelings you suppressed, they don't disappear, they wait, and they return when everything is quiet. This is why the night feels heavy, not because of darkness, but because of what you carry. And until you face it, you will keep running, not in the morning, not in the afternoon, but at night. And that is a paradox. The place where you feel most free is also the place where you are most trapped. Because freedom without control is not freedom, it is escape, and escape always has a cost. The cost is your energy, your focus, your consistency, your future. But no one tells you this, because from the outside, it just looks like you sleep late. People don't see the thoughts, the overthinking, the emotional weight, the silent battles that happen in your mind every single night. They don't see it, but you feel it every night. And slowly it becomes your normal. You stop questioning it, you accept it, you adapt it, until one day you don't even remember what it feels like to have a peaceful mind. And that is where everything begins to change. Because the problem is not that you sleep late, the problem is why. And until you understand that, you will keep repeating the same cycle. But what if staying awake at night is not your weakness? What if it is a signal? A signal that something inside you needs attention. A signal that your mind is trying to tell you something you keep ignoring. A signal that your life is not aligned. Because people who are at peace don't fight sleep, they welcome it. But people who are restless find comfort in staying awake. Not because it helps, but because it distracts. And distraction is easier than confrontation. But growth never comes from distraction. It comes from awareness. And awareness begins with a simple question. Why am I really staying awake? Not the surface answer, I'm not tired. But the real answer, what I'm avoiding, what I'm escaping, what I'm afraid to face. Because once you answer that, everything changes. And for the first time, you stop fighting sleep and start understanding yourself. Understanding the problem is only the beginning, because awareness without action changes nothing. You can know exactly why you sleep late. You can understand every pattern, every emotion, every reason behind it, and still stay stuck. Because the hardest part is not realizing the truth. It is accepting that something needs to change. And change is uncomfortable, especially when your current habits feels like your only escape. For many people, the night is not just a time, it is a refuge, a place where they can breathe, a place where they can exist without pressure, a place where they don't feel judged. So when you try to fix your sleep, it doesn't feel like improvement, it feels like loss of freedom, loss of control, loss of the only moments that feels like yours. And that is why most people fail. They try to change behavior without understanding emotion. But behavior is just the surface. Emotion is the root. If you don't change what you feel, you will always return to what you do. So the question is not how do I sleep early? The real question is, what am I using the night for? Because once you answer that, you don't just fix your sleep, you fix your life. Some people use the night to escape stress. Others use it to avoid the responsibility. Others use it to feel in control. And some use it because it is the only time they don't feel empty. Yes, empty. Because sometimes the real problem is not sleep. It is the feeling that your life is not fulfilling. You go through the day doing things you don't enjoy, talking to people you don't connect with, living a life that doesn't excite you. So when night comes, you finally get a chance to feel something, even if that feeling is just distraction. And that is why you don't want to sleep. Because sleep means tomorrow comes faster, and tomorrow feels the same as today. So you delay it, not consciously, but emotionally. This is a deeper than discipline. This is about alignment. Because when your life is aligned, you don't need to escape it. You don't need to delay tomorrow. You look forward to it. So the solution is not just fixing your sleep, it is fixing what makes you want to stay awake. And that begins with honesty, radical honesty. You need to sit with yourself without distractions, without your phone, without your noise, and ask, what about my life makes me want to escape? Is it stress? Is it lack of purpose? Is it fear? Is it a burden? Is it something you're avoiding? Because whatever it is, that is your real problem, not sleep. Sleep is just the symptom, and once you identify the root, you can finally start changing. But here is the truth most people don't want to hear. Change will feel uncomfortable. At first you will feel bored because you are removing your main source of stimulation. You will feel restless because your mind is not used to silence. You will feel resistance because your brain prefers what is familiar, even if it is harmful. But this is where growth begins. Not when it feels easy, but when it feels difficult. Because every time you choose differently, you are rewiring your mind. You are telling yourself, I am no longer that person. And slowly, your identity begins to change. And identity is more powerful than habit. Because when you change who you believe you are, Your actions follow naturally. Instead of saying, I'm trying to sleep early, you become, I am someone who values my time. And that changes everything. But let's go deeper. Because fixing your sleep is not about going to bed early. It is about creating a life you don't want to escape from. A life that feels meaningful. A life that excites you. A life that challenges you. Because when your days are full, your nights become peaceful. Not because you force them, but because you don't need them anymore. This is the shift from escape to alignment, from distraction to intention, from avoidance to awareness. And once you make that shift, everything changes. You start valuing your energy, you start protecting your time, you start becoming more present, and slowly the night loses its power over you. Not because it changed, but because you did. But here is something important. You don't have to lose the night, you just have to redefine it. The night doesn't have to be a place of escape. It can become a place of growth, a place of reflection, a place of calm, a place where you prepare for the life you want to build. Instead of wasting your time, instead of wasting your nights, you can use them. Not to distract yourself, but to understand yourself. And that changes everything. Because now you are not running away, you are moving forward. And that is the difference between staying awake and being awake. One is escape, and the other is awareness. And awareness is where transformation begins. But let's be honest, not everyone will change. Some people will keep staying awake, keep overthinking, keep escaping, until one day they don't have the energy anymore. And by then, time has already passed. Opportunities are gone, potential is wasted, and regret becomes real. Because in the end, it was never about sleep. It was about how you chose to spend your life. And every night you stay awake is a choice to escape or a choice to grow, a choice to delay or a choice to move forward, a choice to stay the same or a choice to change. And the hardest part is, no one will make that choice for you. No one is coming to fix your habits. No one is coming to change your life. It is you, only you. And the moment you realize that, you stop waiting, you stop making excuses, you stop delaying, you stop running, and for the first time, you take control, not for your night, but of your life. Because your habits are not random, they are a reflection of who you are becoming. So the real question is not, why do I sleep late? The real question is, who am I becoming if I continue like this? And once you answer that, you will know what to do. Because deep down, you already know, you always did. You just needed to hear it, and now you have no excuse. So tonight, when the world goes to sleep and you feel that urge to stay awake, pause and ask yourself, am I escaping or am I evolving? Because that one question has the power to change everything. And maybe, just maybe, tonight will be different. Not because you forced it, but because you understood it. And that is where real change begins. You don't need more time, you need more awareness. Because the problem was never the night, it was what you were doing with it.